Today, I want to talk about something that many people experience but rarely discuss: the life of a woman with no friends. Society often tells us that friendships define our worth, that our social circles measure our happiness. But what about the woman who walks alone? Is she weak, or is she stronger than we think? A woman with no friends is not necessarily lonely, she is independent. She has learned to be her own source of comfort, strength, and wisdom. She faces challenges without a cheering squad, yet she keeps moving forward. Having no friends doesn't always mean being lonely. Society has long associated friendship with happiness and fulfillment, making it seem as though a person without a strong social circle must be miserable or lacking something essential. However, this assumption overlooks the reality that not everyone who is alone feels lonely. In fact, some people thrive in solitude, finding peace, clarity, and strength in their own company. Loneliness is an emotional state, a feeling of emptiness or disconnection that stems from wanting social interaction but not having it. However, there is a significant difference between being alone and feeling lonely. A woman with no friends may still have meaningful relationships with family, colleagues, or even acquaintances that bring her a sense of connection. She may have fulfilling hobbies, passions, and personal projects that provide a deep sense of purpose, making her life feel rich and rewarding despite not having a circle of close friends. Additionally, solitude can be a conscious choice rather than an unfortunate circumstance. Some women find comfort in their own space, free from the obligations and emotional burdens that friendships sometimes bring. They enjoy the freedom to think independently, make decisions without external influences, and focus on self-improvement. They are not weighed down by the expectations of maintaining friendships, navigating social politics, or constantly seeking approval from others. Instead, they learn to enjoy their own company, fostering self-awareness and emotional resilience. It is also important to recognize that friendships, while valuable, are not the only source of happiness in life. Many women find deep fulfillment through personal growth, career achievements, creativity, or spiritual exploration. Their lives are not defined by the presence or absence of friends, but by the depth of their experiences and the richness of their self-discovery. They understand that solitude can be a powerful tool for introspection, allowing them to better understand themselves, their desires, and their aspirations without external distractions. In some cases, a woman may have chosen to distance herself from friendships that no longer align with her values or emotional well-being. Toxic relationships, manipulative friendships, and superficial social interactions can be more draining than empowering. Walking away from such connections does not make her lonely, it makes her courageous. She prioritizes her peace over the fear of being alone, knowing that solitude is better than being surrounded by people who do not truly support or uplift her. Ultimately, the idea that having no friends automatically equates to loneliness is a misconception rooted in societal expectations. Not everyone needs a constant social presence to feel fulfilled. Some women find joy in their independence, in the quiet moments of self-reflection, and in the freedom that comes with not relying on external validation. The absence of friends does not define a person's worth or happiness. Rather, it is their ability to embrace their own journey, with or without a social circle, that truly matters. A woman with no friends learns to rely on herself, developing a sense of independence and strength that many may never experience. While society often emphasizes the importance of friendships as a support system, there is an undeniable power in being self-sufficient. A woman who navigates life without the safety net of close friends must find ways to handle challenges, make important decisions, and support herself emotionally without relying on others. This process, though sometimes difficult, shapes her into a resilient individual who understands her own capabilities on a profound level. Independence is not just about being able to do things alone. It is about cultivating inner strength and trust in oneself. Without a group of friends to lean on during difficult times, a woman learns to be her own source of encouragement. She finds ways to motivate herself, to push forward even when things feel overwhelming. Instead of seeking reassurance from others, she builds her own confidence, learning to trust her instincts and judgment. This self-reliance fosters a sense of empowerment that is invaluable in every aspect of life, whether it be in career, personal growth, or everyday challenges. In many ways, a woman without friends must become her own problem solver. When life throws obstacles in her path, she does not have the luxury of immediately turning to a friend for advice or emotional support. Instead, she learns to think critically, to analyze situations carefully, and to develop solutions on her own. This strengthens her decision-making skills and teaches her resilience. She understands that while it is nice to have a support system, she is fully capable of handling life's uncertainties by herself. Another aspect of strength that develops in solitude is emotional resilience. Friendships often serve as an outlet for venting frustrations, sharing fears, and seeking comfort. Without that immediate outlet, a woman must learn to process her emotions independently. She develops healthy coping mechanisms, whether through self-reflection, writing, meditation, or creative expression. She becomes deeply in tune with her emotions, learning to acknowledge and work through them without needing external validation. Over time, this ability to self-soothe and regulate emotions makes her mentally stronger, allowing her to face difficulties with a calm and collected mindset. Furthermore, a woman without friends often becomes highly self-sufficient in practical matters. Many people rely on friends for help with everyday tasks, whether it's moving to a new place, dealing with financial issues, or simply running errands. Without that immediate social support, she learns to manage these things on her own. She figures out how to handle responsibilities, navigate new situations, and solve problems without needing to ask for assistance. This builds a deep sense of capability, proving to herself that she is not dependent on others to function successfully in life. This level of self-reliance extends beyond the material and emotional aspects of life. It also influences personal growth. A woman with no friends has more time for self-discovery. She is not distracted by social obligations, peer pressure, or the need to conform to group dynamics. Instead, she can focus entirely on her own interests, passions, and goals. She explores new hobbies, learns new skills, and dedicates herself to personal improvement. Whether it's pursuing a career, engaging in creative projects, or simply taking time for self-care, she is free to grow at her own pace without external influences shaping her path. One of the greatest strengths a woman without friends possesses is the ability to stand alone with confidence. She does not need validation from others to feel worthy. She does not fear solitude because she has learned that her own company is enough. She finds comfort in her independence and understands that true strength comes from within. Through every challenge she faces alone, she builds an unshakable foundation of resilience, proving that she is more than capable of thriving on her own terms. People often assume something is wrong with a woman who is alone. Society has long associated social connections with success, happiness, and emotional well-being. From childhood, we are taught that having friends is a fundamental part of life, and the idea of a person without close friendships is often met with skepticism, pity, or even judgment. A woman without friends is frequently misunderstood, with others speculating about why she is alone. Is she difficult to get along with? Is she cold or unkind? Is there something inherently wrong with her? These assumptions reflect deep-seated societal biases that fail to acknowledge the diverse reasons why a person may not have a close social circle. Many people view solitude as an unnatural state, assuming that anyone without friends must be lonely, depressed, or socially inept. A woman who spends time alone, eats at a restaurant by herself, or attends events without companions is often met with curious glances or sympathetic remarks. Others may jump to conclusions, believing that she is unwanted or unliked. Instead of considering that solitude might be a choice or even a necessity for her well-being, people impose their own fears of isolation onto her, believing that she must be struggling. One of the most common misconceptions about a woman without friends is that she must be unapproachable or difficult to get along with. People assume that if she doesn't have a circle of friends, it must be because she has a personality flaw that drives others away. In reality, she may simply be selective about the relationships she invests in. She may value deep, meaningful connections over surface-level friendships, which naturally results in a smaller social circle. Some women prefer to avoid the emotional drama, gossip, or competition that can sometimes come with friendships. Others have been hurt in the past and choose to focus on their own healing rather than forcing connections that don't feel genuine. Another unfair stereotype is that a woman without friends must be lacking social skills or confidence. Many believe that socializing is an essential life skill, and if someone is not actively engaging in friendships, they must be shy, awkward, or unable to maintain relationships. However, this assumption ignores the fact that some women simply enjoy solitude. They are perfectly capable of interacting with others but may not feel the need for constant companionship. They may have fulfilling careers, hobbies, or personal interests that occupy their time, leaving little room for maintaining friendships. Instead of feeling lonely, they may actually feel empowered by their ability to navigate life independently. There is also a certain stigma attached to women who prioritize themselves over social interactions. Women in particular are often expected to be nurturing, social, and community-oriented. When a woman chooses to focus on her own life rather than building friendships, she may be seen as selfish or cold. Society tends to admire independence in men, viewing them as strong and self-sufficient when they spend time alone. However, when a woman embraces solitude, she is often questioned, judged, or even ridiculed for not adhering to traditional social expectations. In professional and social settings, a woman without friends may also be viewed as suspicious or untrustworthy. People tend to feel more comfortable around those who are socially connected, believing that friendships serve as proof of a person's likability and reliability. A woman who operates alone may be unfairly labeled as secretive, unfriendly, or difficult. Others may hesitate to form bonds with her simply because they assume that if she doesn't have friends, there must be a reason. These perceptions can lead to isolation, not because the woman is incapable of forming friendships, but because others project their own biases onto her. Another overlooked reality is that some women who appear to have no friends actually have fulfilling, meaningful relationships in different forms. She may have strong family bonds, a loving romantic relationship, or deep connections with colleagues or mentors. Friendships do not always take the traditional form of a close-knit group, and just because a woman does not have a visible social circle does not mean her life is devoid of connection and love. Despite these misconceptions, a woman without friends continues to navigate life in her own way. She defies societal expectations, proving that happiness and fulfillment are not solely dependent on friendships. While others may judge or misunderstand her, she knows that her worth is not measured by the number of people around her, but by the strength of her own character. Some women prefer peace over toxic friendships. In a world that often glorifies having a large social circle, people rarely stop to consider the quality of those relationships. Many assume that the more friends a person has, the happier they must be. However, this is not always true. Friendships, like any other relationships, can be sources of great joy or deep pain. Not all friendships are healthy, supportive, or fulfilling. Some are filled with jealousy, competition, betrayal, and manipulation. A woman who chooses to walk away from such relationships is not weak or antisocial. She is prioritizing her own mental and emotional well-being. Toxic friendships can take many forms. Some friends are overly competitive, constantly comparing achievements, appearance, or social status. Instead of celebrating each other's successes, they secretly resent them, creating an environment of rivalry rather than support. Others engage in gossip, spreading rumors or talking negatively about their so-called friends behind their backs. A woman who values honesty and loyalty may find herself struggling in such an environment, realizing that these friendships are not built on trust, but on convenience and superficiality. There are also friendships that feel one-sided, where one person is always giving while the other is always taking. A woman who finds herself constantly offering emotional support but receiving none in return may begin to feel drained and unappreciated. Friendship should be a source of mutual encouragement and understanding, but when a relationship becomes too imbalanced, it can turn into an emotional burden rather than a source of joy. Some women recognize this and choose to step away rather than continue feeling used or undervalued. Manipulation is another toxic element in some friendships. Certain friends may use guilt, passive-aggressive behavior, or emotional blackmail to control others. They may expect constant availability, become upset when their needs are not prioritized, or make the other person feel guilty for setting boundaries. A woman who understands her worth will eventually see through these manipulative tactics and decide that protecting her peace is more important than maintaining a toxic connection. Some friendships are simply based on negativity. These are relationships that revolve around complaining, criticizing, and focusing on problems rather than solutions. Spending too much time around people with a negative mindset can be emotionally exhausting, affecting one's own outlook on life. A woman who values positivity and growth may realize that distancing herself from such friendships is necessary for her own well-being. She understands that surrounding herself with constant negativity will only hold her back from becoming the best version of herself. The decision to walk away from toxic friendships is not always easy. Society often makes people feel guilty for cutting ties, as if ending a friendship is a sign of failure or selfishness. Many women struggle with feelings of obligation, thinking that because they have known someone for years or shared past experiences, they must continue the friendship, even when it no longer serves them. But time and history are not always enough to justify staying in an unhealthy relationship. A woman who values her peace recognizes that just because someone was once an important part of her life does not mean they must remain it forever. There is also the pressure to conform to social norms. Many people are afraid of being perceived as unfriendly or antisocial if they do not maintain an active social life. A woman who chooses to step away from toxic friendships may be misunderstood, with others assuming she is isolating herself or struggling to make connections. In reality, she may simply be prioritizing the quality of her relationships over the quantity. She would rather be alone than in bad company, knowing that her mental and emotional health are worth protecting. By choosing peace over toxicity, a woman creates space for self-reflection, self-care, and personal growth. She is no longer burdened by unnecessary drama, false friendships, or emotional exhaustion. Instead, she is free to focus on things that truly matter: her own happiness, passions, and goals. She learns to embrace solitude as a source of strength rather than something to be feared, and she understands that being alone is far better than surrounding herself with people who do not have her best interests at heart. Betrayal, misunderstandings, or personal growth can lead to isolation. Friendships, like any other relationships, are not always permanent. As people change, so do their connections with others. A woman who finds herself without friends may not have ended up in that situation by choice, but rather as a result of life circumstances, emotional growth, or painful experiences that altered the dynamics of her relationships. Sometimes, friendships fade naturally over time, while in other cases, a woman may have been forced to walk away due to betrayal, hurt, or a deep realization that she no longer fits into the social circles she once belonged to. Betrayal is one of the most devastating reasons a woman may find herself alone. Trust is the foundation of any friendship, and when it is broken, the pain can be profound. Betrayal can come in many forms: being lied to, talked about behind one's back, used for personal gain, or abandoned in a time of need. Few things hurt more than realizing that someone who was once trusted and loved did not value the friendship in the same way. A woman who experiences this kind of hurt may become more cautious, withdrawing from others to protect herself from future pain. Some betrayals are so deep that they shatter a woman's ability to trust people easily again, leading her to choose solitude over the risk of being hurt once more. Misunderstandings also play a major role in friendships falling apart. Sometimes people drift apart due to miscommunication or unresolved conflicts. Words are misinterpreted, actions are taken the wrong way, and before either person knows it, a strong bond has weakened. A woman who values honesty and clarity in relationships may find it difficult to navigate friendships that are filled with constant confusion, unspoken resentment, or passive-aggressive behavior. Rather than staying in a relationship where she feels unheard or misunderstood, she may choose to step back, leading to further distance and eventually isolation. Another reason friendships dissolve is personal growth. As people evolve, their interests, priorities, and values change. A woman who once enjoyed certain activities or conversations may no longer find them fulfilling. Perhaps she has developed a new outlook on life, adopted healthier habits, or started focusing on self-improvement, only to realize that the people around her are not on the same path. Growth can be intimidating to those who prefer staying in their comfort zones, and when a woman begins to outgrow her friendships, it can create tension. Friends may accuse her of changing too much or acting differently, even when those changes are positive. This can make a woman feel alienated, as if she no longer belongs to the group she was once a part of. In some cases, personal growth means realizing that the friendships once held were not as deep or meaningful as they seemed. Some relationships are built on convenience, friends who were there because of shared circumstances rather than true emotional connection. A woman may come to see that the people she spent time with were not truly supportive, but rather individuals who preferred her when she remained the same. The moment she starts growing, setting boundaries, or seeking more out of life, these so-called friendships may dissolve, leaving her to navigate a new path on her own. Life changes also contribute to isolation. As people move to different cities, start new careers, or enter new phases of life, maintaining friendships can become challenging. A woman who once had a thriving social life may find herself alone after relocating, changing jobs, or going through major personal transitions such as marriage, motherhood, or a deep spiritual transformation. Not everyone is able to keep up with these changes, and sometimes friendships naturally fade because the people involved are no longer walking the same path. Another factor that often leads to isolation is emotional or mental burnout. A woman who has spent years being the strong friend, always offering support and guidance to others, may reach a point where she has nothing left to give. When she finally takes a step back to prioritize her own needs, she may be met with silence rather than understanding. Many friendships are maintained because one person constantly gives while the other takes, and when that dynamic shifts, the friendship may collapse. This can leave a woman feeling unappreciated and alone, questioning whether those friendships were genuine in the first place. Isolation, whether caused by betrayal, misunderstandings, or personal growth, is often a difficult but transformative experience. While losing friendships can be painful, it also presents an opportunity for self-reflection and rediscovery. A woman who finds herself alone may initially struggle with the silence, but over time she may come to appreciate the peace that comes with no longer being in relationships that no longer serve her. She begins to understand that being alone is not a punishment, but rather a necessary step in her journey toward a more authentic, fulfilling life. A woman with no friends often finds new ways to fill her time and create meaning in her life. Without the distractions of social obligations, meetups, and constant interactions, she has an opportunity to explore interests, passions, and aspects of herself that she may not have discovered if she were constantly surrounded by people. While some might assume that a lack of friendships leads to boredom or emptiness, in reality, it can open the door to a life of self-discovery, productivity, and deeper fulfillment. One of the most significant changes a woman without friends may experience is an increased focus on personal development. Without the influence or expectations of others shaping her decisions, she has the freedom to dedicate her time to self-improvement. She might pick up a new hobby, return to an old passion, or invest time in learning new skills. Whether it's painting, writing, fitness, music, or even starting a small business, she has the space to pursue these interests without external pressure or distractions. Many successful individuals attribute their growth to periods of solitude, where they had the time and mental clarity to develop their talents and refine their goals. Reading and self-education often become a larger part of her life as well. Without the daily conversations and interactions that many people rely on for stimulation, she may turn to books, online courses, or research to engage her mind. She might explore philosophy, psychology, history, or personal development topics, gaining insights that shape her worldview. This continuous learning process helps her expand her knowledge, challenge her perspectives, and cultivate a sense of wisdom that many people overlook when they are constantly engaged in social activities. Additionally, a woman without friends often becomes more in tune with her emotions and thoughts. When constantly surrounded by people, there is little room for deep self-reflection. Alone, she can evaluate her life choices, recognize patterns, and understand herself better. She may journal, meditate, or engage in mindfulness practices, leading to a stronger sense of self-awareness. This emotional clarity allows her to make more intentional decisions about her future, rather than being influenced by peer expectations or societal norms. Many women in solitude also find fulfillment through creative expression. Without the need to conform to group dynamics or seek approval from friends, she can explore her creativity freely. She might start writing poetry, experimenting with photography, designing clothes, or even building something with her hands. Creativity often flourishes in silence, and a woman with no friends has the advantage of uninterrupted time to nurture her artistic side. Physical well-being may also become a greater focus. Without the social pressure of frequent outings, late-night hangouts, or peer-driven habits, she may find herself adopting a healthier lifestyle. She has the freedom to plan meals, exercise regularly, and establish routines that enhance her well-being. Many people struggle to prioritize their health because they are caught up in social engagements that encourage unhealthy choices. A woman alone, however, can develop a fitness routine that suits her, engage in solo activities like hiking, yoga, or strength training, and prioritize her mental and PRIYANKA in a way that feels authentic to her. Beyond personal development, a woman without friends often redirects her energy toward meaningful pursuits. She may dedicate herself to volunteer work, engage in activism, or contribute to causes she cares about. Without the influence of a social circle dictating how she spends her time, she can focus on work that aligns with her values. Whether she is advocating for social justice, helping the environment, or working with animals, she can find purpose outside of traditional friendships. Spiritual growth is another avenue that many women explore in solitude. Without the noise of constant social interactions, she may feel a deeper connection to her inner self or a higher power. She might take up meditation, attend spiritual retreats, explore different philosophies, or simply spend time in nature, finding peace in stillness. Many spiritual leaders and thinkers throughout history have embraced solitude as a way to gain insight, clarity, and enlightenment. A woman without friends may discover that being alone does not mean being disconnected. It can actually lead to a stronger, more meaningful connection with herself and the world around her. While friendships can bring joy and support, a woman without them is not necessarily living an unfulfilled life. Instead, she has the chance to redefine happiness on her own terms. By exploring her passions, investing in self-growth, and finding deeper meaning in her everyday experiences, she creates a life that is rich with purpose, creativity, and personal satisfaction. A woman with no friends learns to embrace independence and self-sufficiency in ways that many people never experience. While society often associates friendships with emotional support, guidance, and companionship, a woman who navigates life alone discovers a profound sense of resilience and self-reliance. She learns to depend on herself, make decisions without outside influence, and find comfort in her own company. This journey of self-sufficiency is not always easy, but it fosters personal growth, confidence, and a deeper understanding of what it means to truly stand on one's own. One of the first things she learns is how to enjoy her own company. Many people rely on social interactions for validation, entertainment, and reassurance, but a woman without friends must cultivate these experiences within herself. She becomes comfortable with silence, solitude, and the absence of constant conversation. Rather than fearing being alone, she starts to appreciate the freedom it brings, choosing how to spend her time, setting her own pace, and engaging in activities that genuinely interest her. Whether it's dining alone at a restaurant, going to the movies by herself, or traveling solo, she learns that her own presence is enough. Independence also strengthens her decision-making skills. Without the input or opinions of friends, she must trust her own instincts and judgment. Many people seek external validation before making choices, fearing that they might make the wrong decision if they don't consult others. A woman who navigates life without a social circle learns to rely on her own wisdom, weighing pros and cons without the need for reassurance. She becomes more confident in her ability to make choices that align with her values, goals, and desires, rather than being influenced by what others might think. Another valuable skill she develops is emotional self-regulation. In friendships, people often turn to others for comfort and advice during difficult times. While this can be helpful, it can also create a dependence on external support rather than learning to manage emotions internally. A woman without friends must find ways to process her feelings independently. She may develop healthier coping mechanisms such as journaling, meditation, exercising, or engaging in creative expression. By learning to sit with her emotions rather than immediately seeking distraction or reassurance from others, she gains a deeper understanding of herself and builds emotional strength. Financial independence is another area where she thrives. Without the social pressures of frequent outings, shopping trips, or keeping up with group activities, she gains better control over her finances. Many friendships involve unspoken expectations of spending, buying gifts, splitting bills, or joining expensive outings just to maintain social bonds. A woman without these financial obligations can prioritize her own needs, invest in her future, and make financial decisions based solely on her personal goals. Whether it's saving for a house, traveling, or starting a business, she has the autonomy to allocate her resources in ways that truly benefit her. Her independence also extends to practical life skills. Many people rely on friends for small everyday tasks, moving furniture, fixing things around the house, or running errands together. A woman without a social circle learns to handle these responsibilities on her own. She becomes resourceful, finding ways to solve problems without immediately reaching out for help. She might teach herself how to cook, fix a leaky faucet, navigate a new city alone, or handle challenging situations without backup. Each time she accomplishes something independently, her confidence grows, reinforcing the belief that she is capable of handling life's challenges on her own. This self-sufficiency also enhances her ability to set and maintain boundaries. Without the emotional obligations that often come with friendships, she has the freedom to protect her time, energy, and personal space without guilt. Many women struggle with saying no, fearing they will upset others or damage relationships. A woman without friends does not have to navigate these pressures. She can prioritize her mental being, avoid toxic situations, and live according to her own rules without feeling the need to accommodate or please others. Despite the challenges, this journey of self-reliance allows her to cultivate a strong, unshakable sense of identity. She learns to define herself outside of social labels, not as someone's best friend, confidante, or part of a group, but simply as herself. This level of independence empowers her to move through life with confidence, resilience, and an unbreakable sense of self-worth. Over time, a woman with no friends learns that solitude does not mean loneliness. Rather, it becomes a powerful tool for self-discovery, peace, and inner strength. Society often portrays solitude as something to be feared, as if being alone is synonymous with being unwanted or unloved. However, a woman who has spent time without a social circle begins to see solitude in a completely different light. She realizes that being alone does not mean she is incomplete or lacking something. It simply means she has the opportunity to deepen her relationship with herself. One of the first things she learns is that solitude allows for mental clarity. Without the constant noise of social interactions, she has the chance to think deeply about her life, her choices, and her future. Many people are so caught up in their friendships and social obligations that they rarely have time to reflect on who they truly or what they genuinely want. A woman who embraces solitude has the space to ask herself important questions. What are her true passions? What kind of life does she want to build? What truly makes her happy? Without outside opinions influencing her thoughts, she can explore these questions honestly and without pressure. In solitude, she also discovers the beauty of peace. Friendships, even the healthiest ones, require energy. They involve social expectations, obligations, and sometimes even unnecessary drama. When a woman removes herself from these dynamics, she finds a sense of calm that she may have never experienced before. She is no longer weighed down by conflicts, gossip, or the emotional labor that friendships often demand. Instead, she has the freedom to enjoy the quiet moments of life, sipping coffee in the morning without distractions, taking long walks in nature, or simply sitting in stillness without feeling the need to entertain or be entertained. Another transformation that happens in solitude is a deeper appreciation for independence. A woman who spends time alone realizes that she does not need external validation to feel valued. She does not have to rely on the opinions of friends to feel beautiful, intelligent, or successful. She understands that her worth is not defined by how many people surround her, but by the way she sees and treats herself. This newfound confidence allows her to walk through life without seeking approval from others, making her stronger and more self-assured. Solitude also becomes a space for creativity and self-expression. Without distractions, she has the time and energy to pour herself into creative pursuits that bring her joy. Many of the world's greatest writers, artists, and thinkers have credited solitude as the key to their most profound work. A woman who embraces being alone may start writing, painting, composing music, or engaging in other forms of artistic expression that allow her to explore her inner world. She no longer feels the need to create for an audience or for social recognition. She creates because it fulfills her. Over time, she also learns to form a deeper connection with herself. When people are constantly surrounded by others, they often suppress certain emotions or thoughts in order to fit in or be accepted. A woman without friends has the freedom to be fully honest with herself. She learns to listen to her own needs, recognize her own emotions, and understand herself on a deeper level. She becomes more attuned to what brings her joy, what triggers her stress, and what truly matters to her in life. Furthermore, solitude teaches her to be selective with the people she allows into her life. When she has spent time alone and learned to be content in her own presence, she no longer feels the need to accept just anyone into her world. She does not rush into friendships out of fear of being alone. Instead, she waits for connections that are genuine, meaningful, and aligned with her values. This self-awareness allows her to build stronger, healthier relationships in the future if she chooses to do so. Eventually, she realizes that solitude is not a punishment but a gift. It allows her to recharge, reflect, and grow without external distractions. It gives her the space to prioritize herself and focus on the things that truly matter. And most importantly, it teaches her that she is enough just as she is, with or without friends.